Hello, Hoops fans, and welcome to the Her Hoop Stats podcast. I am Brittany Carper, joined today by the Cindy Brunson. And I feel like we just need to take a deep breath after this weekend, Cindy. We made it through some conference tournaments. We have some picks for the NCAA tournament. Some people punched their tickets, and man, what a weekend of women's basketball.
Woo, just a little more than 3 weeks away from everybody joining me here in the Phoenix Scottsdale area for the next iteration of the Women's Final Four, which will be the best, by the way. I want to remind fans that the practice is open to the general public. It is free the day before the champ game. So you will get to see both teams who are competing to win it all on the floor for an hour at a time. The doors open at noon. The first practice is at 1. The second practice is at 2. Again, free. All you have to do is go to ncaa.com and snag your tickets. The record for fan participation in this event is just under 12,000 fans. I know in Phoenix we can shatter that record. So I implore everybody to go to ncaa.com, get your free tickets to watch the combatants, who I think right now, based on what I saw yesterday, is going to be hopefully UCLA and UConn for all the marbles. They have clearly, in my opinion, separated themselves from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think if anyone is in the Phoenix area for the Final Four, absolutely get out there and enjoy practice. I mean, I think it's one thing when you're at a game, but when you kind of can see the prep that goes into the national championship game and like a little bit more personal feel than what a game is, just an awesome opportunity for people to attend. And I want to start right with the top there of the Big Ten final in UCLA. You mentioned a team that we think both of us agree is hopefully on a collision course with UConn in the national title game. But yesterday in the Big Ten championship, they defeated Iowa 96-45. They had 6 players in double figures, which again is pretty common theme for that UCLA team this year. And I'm going to let you talk about the game, but just also like we were talking, when have they really been tested in a conference that is also really good this year? And we had to go back. February 8th against Michigan was their only single-digit game outside of a December 28th game against Ohio State. And so when you talk about a team dominating really throughout, the entire regular season and conference tournament in a league as good as the Big Ten, where do you put this UCLA team right now going into the tournament?
Oh, it is so fun to see the joy this team is playing with, first and foremost. Unlike last year, you could feel the pressure pulsating off of every player and especially head coach Corey Close. This year, everybody is leaning into the joy aspect. When they are enjoying the ride, it's EN capital J, capital O, capital Y. And it is so cool to see. I think the X factor for them in the tournament is a healthy Sienna Betts. She did not start the season healthy, and
Right.
she was on the bench for non-con into Big Ten play. We are seeing the best iteration of Sienna Betts, the 4-time Gatorade Player of the Year out of Colorado, Sienna Betts, that we were all promised at the beginning of the season when she first signed. And that, I think, the formidable Betts sister combo where you take 6-7 off and then bring 6-4 on, or have them doing post to post passes together on the floor at the same time. Oh, and then all of the senior leadership, just senior after senior after grad, holding the ball in dribbling it up the floor, controlling the turnovers, the turnover to assist ratio, all of the things that matter when there is no margin for error when you're chasing a championship just weighs so heavily in UCLA's favor.
Yeah, I mean, Sienna Betts' stat line yesterday in 18 minutes, she had 14 points. She was 7 of 8 from the floor, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 0 turnovers. So when
Mhm.
you're talking about bringing someone off the bench to complement what already is a very, very strong starting five, wow. I think you just look at the numbers yesterday. I mean, on top of obviously having to deal with Lauren Betts inside, they went 13 of 26 from the 3-point line.
Yep.
And I thought that was a big factor for them this year in adding Meepkins, the
Mhm.
transfer from Utah, that has really allowed them to play a little bit differently because she is that threat from the
Yeah.
3-point line consistently. But like you said too, just playing with the joy, and that reminds me of Joe Madden quote. I'm a huge Cubs fan, and when they were going through their run in 2016, he said, "Never let the pressure exceed the pleasure." And
Ooh,
I
love that.
feel like, yeah, and I feel like you can see that the maturation of this UCLA team
Mhm.
playing that way and enjoying what should be the best, year of their life with this team. And man, they took down an Iowa team that had been playing so well and
Yeah.
just dismantled them, from
Mhm.
top to bottom. And what you talk a lot about with UCLA is their offense, but man, they held Iowa to 28% from the field, 22% from the 3-point line.
Mhm.
So, how important is that defense going to be for this UCLA team when they enter, the tournament?
It's huge. And then you look at UCLA's length. How are they able to create all of these live ball turnovers? How are they able to get the steals and the blocks? It was a block party. The rim protection was top tier in that championship game. It's the length for me. Everywhere you look on the 3-point line, on that perimeter is size. Charlize Ledger Walker, big guard. Gabriela Jaquez, when she gets her arms up, watch out. And then you bring in Dugalich. It's ridiculous the length and determination and want to they have defensively. I think that sets this team apart. And you mentioned the 13 made threes. It wasn't just Neepkins. It was
Nope.
Char. It was Jaquez. It was Dugalich. It was Rice. They can get you in so many different ways. They don't rely on one person or two people. It's anybody's night on any given day. And I think as an opposing coach, that is a matchup nightmare.
Yeah, I certainly think people, when the bracket is unveiled here in about 6 days, no one
Mhm.
wants to see UCLA on their side, but a
No.
team in Texas that has given UCLA their lone loss
Yep.
won the SEC tournament yesterday over what is expected the other number one seed outside of UConn and South Carolina, 78-61. Talk about what you think in Texas and South Carolina and kind of what their tournament might look like with just those styles of play.
It's interesting because Don Staley, after the game, said, "You know what? We're okay because this happened to us in 22, and then we won the whole darn thing." So kudos to coach for just lowering the temperature, calming everybody down, and reminding everybody what the main thing is. This is just a blip. It is not, doom and gloom. Don't hit the panic button. So that is first and foremost. I was stunned at how South Carolina did not answer the bell. It
Mhm.
was one of the rare times over the last decade that I've seen a Don Staley team not ready to meet the moment, so that was the most surprising thing for me. And
Yeah,
then
and
the fact.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, I thought some of South Carolina's was maybe the emotional high of the previous game against
Of the LSU.
LSU.
I think there was so much emotional investment in
Mhm.
making sure that Kim Mulkey never beats Dawn. So
Yes.
19 straight times this woman has
Yep.
tried to beat Dawn, and it has not worked. So I think
Yes.
there was a lot. And I think there's a lot of personal animosity or want to in those
Mm,
individual matchups for the players between South Carolina and LSU. And that was the big, okay, exhale, we got that. Boom, the rest is easy. Where Texas is like, oh, you don't know hard until you meet us because
mhm,
Texas for me is going to be the X factor, them and Vanderbilt, because somehow, some way, with not as many tools in the toolbox as a UConn or a UCLA, their ability to tap into the want to and to have that gigantic boulder sized chip on their shoulder is formidable. And it's how Texas beat UCLA in their first meeting, right? They just bought the punch to the face, and the Bruins could not respond. That is an X factor for the Longhorns. I think it's also an X factor for Vandy. When they want to tap into it, they have it. And I think that makes those two teams really scary. But credit to Madison Booker and Rory Harmon. Oldacre had a fantastic game. They didn't have to even rely on Cunningham like I thought they might. Like, it was just soup to nuts, a great game plan, and you could tell it meant something to Schaefer. It
Yeah.
meant something to Vic more than, I even thought, especially to see
Mhm.
him post game with his box score, how he's always looking, and he kind of rolled it up, and all he could say was, "This is great. This is great." So, and shout out to Vic for always wearing a suit. I love it when coaches look like it's a business trip. Thank you, Vic Schaefer.
Yeah, I mean, there's been such a change and shift on sideline attire ever
Yes,
since COVID. And, some people still do it, some prefer the comfortable. And so it's always interesting to see. But I
I
thought,
am
yeah,
all
this,
about the fit. If the women can walk the runway, the men better come correct too.
I love
I
it.
had one of my last Big 12 games for Arizona was against Houston, and Matthew Mitchell rolled in like he had hopped off the cover of GQ. It was top tier, and I am here for it.
I feel like he's always been one of the best
Yeah.
dressed in the game on the sidelines, even from his time at Kentucky. But yeah,
Yep.
I just thought that Texas team came out just with something to prove. I think
Mhm.
yesterday, and like you said, I think South Carolina, for whatever reason, what it didn't meet the moment. But like Don Staley said, and they've been there before. I
Mhm.
certainly think when the ball is tipped here in about a week and a half, we'll see a South Carolina team that's on a mission
Yep.
once the tournament starts. But I thought one of the most exciting conference tournaments in terms of early games, even into the Final Four, and then it got down to chalk was the Big 12. And yesterday we had West Virginia defeating TCU 62-53. And man, that like what a job Mark Kellogg has done at West Virginia. And
Oh,
I
100%.
mean, just your thoughts on that game and those two teams, and kind of, I think West Virginia possibly played themselves into a host seed.
Yeah.
I certainly think that it should be the case with what they have done throughout the season and then going and winning that tournament. But, just your thoughts on those two teams and where they're at entering the tournament here in a week and a half.
I think West Virginia, this is all about matchups, right? And West Virginia is a matchup nightmare for TCU because the Mountaineers are very comfortable playing ugly. And Mark
Yes.
Campbell and that Horn Frog offense is all about beauty. It's all about inside out and let Olivia Miles do what she wants to do. And they took that away. The Mountaineers took that away, and they did it with dogged determination. And again, it reminded me of what I saw out of the Longhorns, just bringing more want to the table. TCU rolled in like it was a foregone conclusion that they were supposed to win the game. And the Mountaineers were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If we win this, we can help ourselves host in the tournament. A, B, we can knock TCU, rather, Texas Christian, out of being comfortable in the tournament too. We can help our own path by knocking them out of the state of Texas because the Longhorns did their assignment, right? They
Mhm.
won that SEC title to prove that they belong closer to home to the NCAA tournament committee. And the Horned Frogs dropped the ball in that department. So, behind the scenes, with all of the machinations, there was so much at stake for TCU to not let go of the rope. And they just got punched in the face and could not recover. That was one of the worst games I've seen Marta Suarez play. She
Mhm.
just looked discombobulated, even though she had the size advantage at every turn. It was the harassing and haranguing of the double team that just made her look out of sorts. And then Olivia Miles was not the Olivia that we've seen up to this point, right? The one who leads the nation in triple doubles, all of that. It was a masterclass in how to be disruptive. And Coach Kellogg deserves all of the credit in that. And thank you to the Big 12 tournament for making the court easy to see. There was a line of demarcation that was the half court line. That was very, some of the previous games in the tournament, I was like, what am I looking at? There's a lot going on here. So appreciated that. And I
Yeah.
still haven't heard the players' reaction of what it was like to play on that surface. Was it better? Was it worse? When you
Yeah,
smell. Yeah,
I think mixed reviews from it. I think some thought it was a little slippery.
right?
Some other than that, I don't think, it was much different. It was supposed to be a softer landing, like no
Mhm,
burns,
right.
things like that. But yeah, I don't know if we got a great feedback of whether it was well liked or not. But I certainly agree. I think there was a lot of, from what I saw on Twitter anyway, comments about the court, and you saw the changes kind of happen progressively as the
Yeah,
tournament went on, which makes it a little easier on the eyes when you're watching. I think that especially those first 2 days, all those 12 marks on the court make it very
yeah,
hard to
yep,
see. But I thought that game yesterday was just a direct reflection of the way West Virginia makes you play. They make you uncomfortable, they make it hard,
mhm,
and they really, like you said, took TCU out of what they are good at doing.
yep,
Olivia Miles struggled with foul trouble. And like you said, Suarez, she was 6 of 19 from the floor, 2 of 9 from the 3-point line, and just never really had that comfort level that we've seen so many games, from
mhm.
her this season. And then the last conference, tournament from the P4 was the closest of the day in the ACC, with Duke defeating Louisville 70-65 in overtime. And I know not only did you want to talk about the game, but you wanted to acknowledge the broadcasting team that did the game.
Yeah, Debbie Antonelli and Beth Mowins celebrating 30 years of partnership on TV. I mean, they have been the soundtrack for so many amazing women's basketball games that we've all enjoyed. So kudos to them. I know they were celebrated pregame. And of all of the Power Four, and we'll throw the Big East in there too, championships and semifinals that I watched, it was the only all female broadcast. And that means something. We have seen more male play by play in the women's basketball space in this women's college basketball season than we have in about a decade. And that is the arrow going the wrong direction, in my opinion. It hurts my heart. It really, really does. I'm one of a handful of play by play on the national scene. I work for a variety of different networks: TNT Sports, NBC Sports, of course, the University of Arizona, Athletes Unlimited. I'm trying to grow the number of women who are getting opportunities behind the mic, and to see those numbers shrink is appalling. It's disquieting. And it just makes me want to grab the decision makers by the shirt collar and say, why? What are you doing? You see the excellence that Beth and Debbie as a tandem bring. Why would you want to shrink from that? And I hope I get that opportunity. Shoot, I hope I'm running the show one day and I get to pick and choose who gets to do what, because it would not look the way it did yesterday.
Yeah, and I think just with the growth of women's sports, especially, that's an area where it would be nice that more women are given the opportunity to do the games and broadcast
Mhm.
them and be a part of it and be the face of those teams, because I think again, we know the importance of little girls or young girls seeing what they could be. And
Yep.
so when they're turning on a game and they're not necessarily seeing women in those roles, they don't always understand that that is a path for them as well. And
Mhm.
having obviously just celebrated International Women's Day
Yep.
yesterday, just we know the importance of giving space and platforms to women in those spaces. And I think that's certainly, somewhere where maybe it does need to be addressed and looked at more as the game continues to grow. Um, I think, obviously someone who's done it a long time in you, do you
Mm.
have advice, or, like what can young people looking to do really, help themselves?
Keep pushing. Just keep pushing. Keep demanding opportunities, keep putting in the work, keep broadcasting, even if it's tiddlywinks at your local YMCA, get on a mic and talk about it. Do sports that you're not comfortable with. Get on a volleyball sideline, get on a softball pitch or diamond, get on a soccer pitch. Do whatever it takes to give yourself opportunities because every rep is a step. And that is going to help you be the best broadcaster in your favorite sport down the road. We have to keep pushing. We cannot let go of the rope. We had so many great inroads made, particularly over the last, I would say, since 2019, since right before COVID, you could really see the pendulum swing. It makes me want to shout out USA Sports even more for their WNBA broadcast teams featuring women led by Kate Scott. The number two is Megan McPeak. So, two female play by plays, great see her, be her opportunities, but they shouldn't stand alone. And they shouldn't be the only ones that I can look to on the grand landscape here in the United States.
Yeah, I love that. I know we got sidetracked a little bit from the game, but I think it's important that we, at least acknowledge where we see things that can be improved. And it's not necessarily always just the game; it's the way it's
Yeah.
presented to the audience as well. But back to that Louisville Duke game. This is a Duke team that they were 3-6. They go on, a 16, I think, game winning streak or whatever it was.
Mhm.
They finished the regular season 24-8. They win the outright regular season. They win the tournament championship. What does this Duke team have left, for the NCAA tournament, and what can we kind of expect from either one of these?
Well, Brittany, I wasn't with you when I was first asked about Duke early on in the season, and I
Yeah.
broke into Duke, 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 Duke of Earl, Earl, Earl. So I'm going
I
to go
love
back
it.
to that because Kara Lawson has demonstrated to everyone why she was tabbed to be Team USA's national coach, what she brings to the table, to be able to navigate all of the outside noise and keep that away from her team and do the work, right? They are a defense first team that got in the lab and worked on the offense and made sure that they could put players like Fournier in a position to shine. And that's exactly what happened when their best was needed against an extremely well coached Jeff Walls team from Louisville. I loved every minute of that telecast. I thought Debbie and Beth did a great job of taking you through the emotion, of sharing the backstories, all of the things. And at the end of the day, Kara said post game, this is not supposed to be easy. Getting
Right.
what you want in life is hard. And this was hard. And this is going to help us down the road. So for me, a Duke team in the Sweet 16 would not be a surprise at all because they have been building toward this. You want to be arrow up in February into March and then eventually April. And that's exactly what Kara Lawson has Duke doing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on the Duke front. Just a team that has we've all seen it too, just the growth throughout this season. They were talked about so much early in this year. And I think, like, she had that one press conference a couple weeks ago, just talked about, they just put their heads down and went to work. And we've seen the results of that. And I think they're, like you said, not a team I would be surprised to be in the Sweet 16. And on the other side, a Louisville team that I think for the most part has exceeded most everyone's expectations
Oh,
this
yeah.
season, in terms of where they are. And I credit to Coach Jeff Walls. I think he just does a masterful job, every season, but certainly one of his better coaching performances this year. And I think that's a Louisville team that can surprise some people. And so
Mhm.
I think, the ACC overall, I think got some flack this season just in terms of, not being maybe as heavy and competitive as some other conferences. But those two teams, especially, I think are ones in the NCAA tournament that, you definitely maybe don't want to get matched up against in your bracket.
Yeah, they will make life very hard because they're two-way teams, right? They dig in on defense, they create live ball turnovers, they protect the rim, and they can shoot the basketball when needed, and it comes from a variety of different places. You don't know, especially for Louisville, who's gonna step up and be the person. So yeah, definitely a team you don't wanna see on your side of the bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, obviously the power fours are kind of wrapped up now. We're
Mhm.
having a little bit better of, idea of what the bubble looks like, what,
Yeah.
the bracket looks like. I definitely want to remind people to, make sure they're getting on her hoop stats and checking out Megan Gower's bracketology.
Yes.
That's being updated
Ooh, can I
way
shout
more
Megan out?
frequently. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, because I'm watching because Arizona State is a host school for the NCAA tournament championship here in Phoenix. And so I'm like, does Arizona State make it? Do they not? Where are the Sun Devils? Boom. And to your point, Gower is all over this, like up to the minute. Right now, Arizona State is in, as I think they should be. Hello, a program record 24 wins as a first year head coach. That is what Molly Miller has done. No team that has won 24 games in previous years has not made the tournament. First and foremost, that is the big check mark that they get. Second, it's an exciting brand of basketball. And in my opinion, humbly, you want the whole school involved. Even if they go and lose on the first day, who cares? You got to have the whole school involved, especially if they have put in the work and they have earned it. And I think 24 wins says the Sun Devils have earned it.
Yeah, and I think, right now she has, the last 4 in as Virginia, Nebraska, Arizona State, and Richmond.
Yes.
I think, when you're kinda looking at the landscape of the rest of the tournament, maybe a bid steal out of the Ivy, but I think for the most
Mhm.
part, you've kind of avoided most of those bid stealing,
Right.
opportunities, and so I would imagine there's not a ton of shakeup from, here on out. I was trying to look last year. I think she was 66 to 68
Mhm.
out of the predicted teams. I can't find it
That's
off the
pretty
top of
good.
my head here. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I think I just wanted to make sure people are acknowledging and looking at that if they're really into like kind of trying to follow where,
Mhm.
teams are going to be, and it's harder, I think, to really understand the regions and where they're all going to be placed. But
Right.
certainly she has, has the background and the knowledge, and I wanted to direct people there.
Yeah,
But
I did the flyover of what's going on for the state of Texas and playing home in the schools there.
yeah,
She gets into the weeds with it. Like, if you really wanna know, Gower is your source. She's fantastic.
yeah, and so I just, again, wanted to make sure because it's that time of year where you can't refresh or do enough of that where you're trying to keep track of everybody. But Cindy,
Yep.
what are your other final thoughts just on this weekend wrapping up? And we know we still have some tournaments ahead, but just
Mhm.
some final thoughts.
This weekend demonstrated to me that we are really seeing the tectonic plates shift in women's college basketball, right? Where it is the haves and the have-nots. The teams that have managed NIL, that are fully funded, well supported, all of the things are really separating themselves from those who haven't figured it out or maybe held on to the traditional recruit develop model too long. And that is twofold, a double-edged sword. I like that I'm seeing the cream rise to the top and the best battle the best, but I fear for what's happening for the rest of the game. And we just need guardrails. There has to be a salary cap, if you will. We just can't continue to have 10 to 15 schools have blank check opportunities and then expect the rest of the field, the other 300 and some odd schools, to compete. That's just not fair. and it's not right. So we've got to do something to level the playing field. I really felt that this weekend showed who's got the support, who's got the checkbook, and who may not.
Yeah, Cindy, I mean, as someone who lives mid-major basketball here at our household, I
Mhm.
certainly feel that and echo that. And I hope that is acknowledged and we do see some change because again, I think the game is at a really good spot. But
Oh, yeah.
again, when money gets involved and we know that that speaks louder sometimes than anything else you can do. And those opportunities then become very drastic. And so certainly, I think that is something that hopefully will be addressed in the next year or two. So we do kind of see that parity return and not so much, separation from those, like you said, 10 to 15 programs that have the blank check and those that don't. But for all of you listeners, make sure you are checking out her hoop stats. We are here Monday through Friday daily on the podcast. The website is full of newsletters, stats, information. I mentioned the bracketology, but also just get in front of a TV at pretty much any time of the day or your computer screen for the next week,
Mhm.
and enjoy the rest of the regular conference season. Because this is obviously such an exciting time of the year. Make sure you're following Cindy on her socials. I have
Mhm.
mine right there. But for Cindy and myself, thanks for listening to us on this Monday and enjoy the hoops.
Woohoo.